The Four Immeasurables. The attitude of the bodhisattva is to want to help all beings find happiness and to relieve them of all their suffering. The bodhisattva doesn't believe there are some beings who want happiness and others who don't. The bodhisattva doesn't think that there are some who need to be freed from suffering and others who don't need to be freed from suffering. He or she realizes that absolutely all beings need to be helped to attain happiness, and all beings need to be liberated from suffering. So the concern is for each and every one of them. In his commentaries, Patrul Rinpoche stressed the need for meditating on impartiality from the beginning of Buddhist practice. Normally, when we meditate on the Four Immeasurables, they appear in the prayers in the order of limitless love, limitless compassion, limitless joy, and limitless impartiality. Patrul Rinpoche stresses the need for meditating on impartiality first because this removes the danger of having partial love, partial compassion, biased love, and biased compassion. So in the beginning of meditation on limitless love, there is a strong tendency to have stronger love towards those one likes and lesser love towards those one doesn't like. Once one has developed wisdom with this meditation, it becomes true love which cares for each and every person without any bias. This is the purest compassion because it cares for everyone. One meditates to cultivate impartiality, then on great love, then on great compassion, and finally on bodhicitta. The first immeasurable, impartiality, means not being influenced by attachment or aggression. Great love means wanting everyone to attain happiness. Great compassion means wanting to free everyone from suffering. Bodhicitta, however, is more subtle. In general, it is the wish to attain Buddhahood to help beings. Its very nature is a loving and compassionate mind. What makes it subtle is that bodhicitta implies the development of wisdom, in Sanskrit, prajna. If there isn't that wisdom, then the love and compassion of the bodhisattva becomes incomplete love and incomplete compassion. So with incomplete love, one really wants to help others, but because one doesn't have a complete wisdom, one is ineffectual and may even harm the person one wants to help. With incomplete compassion, one really wants to relieve the suffering of others, and yet one doesn't know how to free them from their suffering. So in the development of bodhicitta, it is most vital to develop also one's wisdom and understanding along with one's love and compassion. This is the real meaning of bodhicitta, which is the reason why it is subtle and hard to cultivate. For example, suppose we found somebody who was very hungry and we didn't have wisdom. We might think, oh, there is an easy solution. I can show him how to fish. We teach him how to fish, and then in the short term his hunger is alleviated and he can care for himself. However, we have shown him how to harm other beings. In Buddhism, the deliberate killing of any being will lead to negative karma. And so this act will create negative karma which will bring him nothing but trouble and difficulties in the future. So even though our motivation was good, and we had compassion, because of our ignorance, we weren't helping him at all, but made the situation worse. In other words, we need to act with love and compassion in a way that always brings an overall good to all beings and takes that into account, the future implications of the act. This is the wisdom of the bodhisattva. Another way of acting through love and compassion is not harming anyone. This is good in the short term, but this doesn't result in lasting benefit. For example, we can give a poor person a gift of food and clothes. Although the motivation is good and it doesn't harm anyone, there is relatively little benefit because once the food or clothing are used up, the problem returns. What the bodhisattva aims for is a very great and lasting benefit. So when a bodhisattva helps someone, he or she tries always to give that person the very best, which is to establish him on the very best path. If we can show someone how to enter the supreme path, how to really develop and open, then the benefit is great and will increase not just immediately, but throughout all time. This doesn't harm others and helps the person develop in every aspect. So the love, compassion, and care which the bodhisattva has brings everyone to the supreme path, and is really what is meant by true love, compassion, and the activity of the bodhisattva. The bodhisattva's pure motivation is extremely powerful and skillful. For instance, communism also has a view or philosophy, but spreading that philosophy involved great armies, vast amounts of wealth, and a great deal of fighting and violence. Even all those armies and military equipment didn't really convince people of the truth of communism. In contrast, the Buddha didn't spend millions to propagate his ideas or employ vast armies with sophisticated weapons to convince people of the validity of what he was saying. He just had a begging bowl and taught. Because of his powerful and pure motivation, his ideas touched millions and millions of people, and his teachings are still spreading. When the Buddha taught the Dharma, he did it with the greatest love for everyone without any bias. He did it without wishing to bring harm to a single sentient being. He did it with very pure compassion and wisdom. After 2,500 years, all of his teachings are still perfectly intact and are all still spreading and touching others without any effort on the Buddha's part, outside of the power of his pure motivation. This shows the power of this motivation. The Bodhisattva's motivation of the Mahayana is vast, far-reaching, and extremely powerful. Of all the things that one tries to awaken in the Mahayana, this motivation is really the key. From the beginning, one tries to develop this very vast and powerful attitude in which one develops love and compassion along with wisdom that is unbiased and a genuine desire to free everyone from suffering. This approach is the very core of bodhicitta, the driving force or motivation. The opposite of this is to have a biased mind, and this selfish attitude poisons the environment. Bodhicitta, on the other hand, is very beneficial for oneself and for all others. So when someone has bodhicitta, wherever he or she goes, it is like medicine or healing nectar, in Sanskrit, amrita, which brings calmness, peace, and the coolness discussed before. It is very beneficial and is like a great and powerful medicine. It just flows out quite spontaneous and naturally from the presence of one's bodhicitta. Take the supreme example of bodhicitta. When the Buddha taught, he led a very simple life and everything happened spontaneously around him. These far-reaching effects were a completely natural outflow of this very therapeutic healing, coming from the very pure motivation which he had. This is very special. If one looks, for instance, at the Catholic Church, one can see that it is a very powerful organization, and a great deal of effort goes into spreading the doctrine as an organized business. There are missionaries, and a definite effort to spread the philosophy and view. Even though there is all that effort and organization, it does not necessarily spread the view of Catholicism. With the Buddha Dharma, in contrast, there is the natural radiance of bodhicitta and the activity of the Buddha, which through his very pure mind allows the Dharma and its meaning to spread from one person to another in a very spontaneous and natural way. The two main characteristics of the Buddha's activity are its spontaneity and its eternity. One can see how various cultures of the past, such as the Greek civilization, influenced the world, and one can see how that influence was very short-lived. The activity of Buddha, however, is spreading and increasing all the time without any break in continuity and is always effective wherever it is. The Buddha's activity is also always appropriate and fresh. In the first centuries after the Buddha's parinirvana, the Buddha's activity was very appropriate. Even 2,000 years later, it is still very meaningful and appropriate. The view or approach of a bodhisattva to the Mahayana teachings is rooted in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. This second main phase of Buddha's teachings is called the second turning, or sometimes the intermediate turning. The first turning was concerned with the Four Noble Truths and was the basis for the Hinayana. The second turning was the main basis for the Mahayana. The main topic of the Buddha's teachings, this turning, is voidness or emptiness. These are the teachings of Sunyata, Sanskrit, which has been translated as emptiness because the essential nature of everything is empty. But this emptiness is not like empty space because all phenomena comes out of or manifests from this emptiness. Therefore, we prefer emptiness to voidness, which we reserve for empty space. The Buddha describes the empty nature of both outer phenomena of the universe and inner phenomena of the mind of the perceiver. Then, later on, in the third turning, the Buddha mainly taught about wisdom, in Sanskrit, jnana. When Thrangu Rinpoche was in Germany, there was one person who said that he appreciated Rinpoche's teachings very much, but when it came to the teachings on emptiness, they somehow made him feel depressed or uncomfortable. He said that if Rinpoche taught more about the existence of something rather than non-existence of something, it would probably make him feel better. Because of this discomfort, emptiness will be explained in terms of the simultaneity of emptiness and interdependence, called interdependent origination, Tibetan Tendril.